They have always been looking for an opportunity to kill Hasina. So it's a kind of a revenge procedure that they have adopted. Revenge politics is basically in play. I think the Awami League and Sheikh Hasina must have decided that there's no point appealing, because after all, this is a very politicized case, and they regard it as a political vendetta. If the Awami League decides not to participate in the election, I think their political objective will be to disrupt it. And once that disruption process begins, then who knows what will happen. I would estimate that 25 to 30% of the voters in Bangladesh are still Awami League supporters, remain Awami League supporters, which is the largest party which fought for independence, and it has a very large grassroots base. We must not forget that we did not invite her, we did not ask her to come over. It is her own government and her army which brought her here.
A Bangladesh war crimes court has sentenced the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, to death. To understand more about the impact of this ruling, let's cross over to Mr. Pinak Ranjan Chakraborty, the former ambassador to Bangladesh, who joins us at this point. Mr. Chakraborty, thank you for speaking with us. A former Prime Minister, an ousted Prime Minister, has been sentenced to death by a Bangladesh court. Explain what the ripple effects of this are going to be.
Well, the immediate effect will be that the Awami League, which is the largest party in Bangladesh, will obviously not accept it. I believe they have already issued some press release. And I do anticipate that there will be violence on the streets, and the police will again maybe deal with it, try to suppress it. So we will probably see some days of violence. Already the Bandh, which was called a few days back, was almost a total success because nobody came out on the streets. So I think that is the first thing that's going to happen. And then, of course, there are other issues down the line that will arise. Whether the Awami League will participate in the elections, of course, which has been announced in February, but then there's no roadmap for the election. No dates have been set. So these are some of the major questions that remain.
With the death sentence meted out to Sheikh Hasina, what does this mean for her attempts to seek asylum?
Well, she is, technically she has not sought asylum, because I don't know whether the laws in India have granted her asylum, but she has taken refuge. We must not forget that we did not invite her. We did not ask her to come over. It is her own government and her army which brought her here and said, look, we are bringing her here because things are bad. Her house has been, almost being attacked. So then she came here. So we said, okay, you can stay here. And then they said, please send her back, the new government. But we said, how can we send her back? I mean, you want to extradite her, then go through the legal process. We have a treaty with Bangladesh, extradition treaty. And then at that time when she came, she was not convicted of any crimes, and she just escaped, So there are these legal issues that are there, which has to be dealt with before government of India at least, decides to do anything else. But so I anticipate that she will continue to stay here.
I'm curious, what kind of impact is this verdict going to have on relations between India and Bangladesh?
Well, I think Hasina, they will be asking, requesting us or whatever, demanding that Hasina should not be allowed to, which they have done already, that she should not be allowed to speak, she should not be allowed any media interaction. We have obviously not forced her to do it, but she has been talking to the media and sending messages to her own party people. So I think she will continue to do that here, and which will, of course, continue to irritate the government in Dhaka. And so I see that, but after some time, that'll probably also settle down, because once they know that, they cannot, demand that Hasina should be sent back, and Indian government will comply immediately. That's not going to happen. So I think they have to take that on board and then decide what they wish to do. They've already said, I think, in a press release that anyone giving refuge to Hasina, that country will be treated as a not an enemy, but I think it will be an unfriendly act or something like that. So I think that's the kind of mood they will have.
The verdict can be appealed to the Supreme Court, but there are reports that the Hasina family is not going ahead with an appeal at this point. Can you explain why, and if there's any chance that this could be overturned?
Look, I think the judiciary has been overawed by this interim government when they came to power, and they have basically stacked it with their own people who are pro this government or whatever, pro Jamaat, pro students or pro whatever, an anti-Awami League. So, but I am also not sure whether the ICT has any clause for appeal. And if there is, then then it's possible to appeal to the Supreme Court. But I think the Awami League and Sheikh Hasina must have decided that there's no point appealing because, after all, this is a very politicized case, and they regard it as a political vendetta, part of the political vendetta, because they were seeking revenge on Hasina. Because the Jamaat-e-Islami, because the same court which actually Hasina had established, also sentenced the Jamaat-e-Islami leaders who were accused of war crimes in 71. They were sentenced to death and they were executed. So they have always been looking for an opportunity to kill Hasina. So it's a kind of a revenge procedure that they have adopted. Revenge politics is basically in play.
The Bangladesh parliamentary elections are slated for February. What kind of turmoil could we possibly see with this verdict, apart from the violence that you've mentioned?
Well, there will be violence, as I have said, but how long it will last, etc., whether it will die down. I don't think that the violence will probably go on sporadically, because if the Awami League decides not to participate in the election, I think their political objective will be to disrupt it. And once that disruption process begins, then who knows what will happen, and the elections may not be held, which, of course, many of the current stakeholders in the power system there now probably also don't want election because they want to continue with holding on to power because they don't have a ghost of a chance of winning the election. Neither the NCP nor the Jamaat-e-Islami. But they have never won elections. Jamaat-e-Islami has never won more than 10-12% votes in every election almost. There's a long history of that. And the NCP is a brand new party of the students, and they don't have much traction, I think, in the countryside, where Bangladeshi voters have more or less always decided either to vote for the Awami League or the BNP. The BNP falls short, and then they join hands with the Jamaat-e-Islami to form a government. So that has been the pattern. Now that pattern obviously will be disrupted because if the Awami League does not join, or in any case they have been banned from political activities, their political registration has been suspended by the Election Commission. So that's the situation at the moment. So the elections, will it be free, fair and inclusive? That's the question. In these circumstances, it will not be free, fair and inclusive.
Sheikh Hasina herself has called these proceedings a politically motivated charade. That's a direct quote. How much support does she have in Bangladesh at this point?
In every election, the Awami League has always got about 40% of the votes. And today it may be less because they are under pressure. Many people are sometimes also angry with her for what she did during the agitation. And so some of it would have turned against her. But I would estimate that 25 to 30% of the voters in Bangladesh are still Awami League supporters, remain Awami League supporters, which is the largest party which fought for independence. And it has a very large grassroots base. So that I think will be a factor. So if they don't vote, and if you have 30% of the people deciding that we will not vote, then there's a problem. How do you then, give the stamp of approval of free, fair, and inclusive to whatever elections they want to have?
Sheikh Hasina has also called for trial at The Hague. Do you think that this would be a more fair way to establish her guilt?
Well, I've heard that there is some move to appeal or something to the ICJ. Or I don't know whether that'll work out, because that'll again involve both sides arguing, etc., and all that. That might lead to some kind of a verdict later, but that's a long way down the road. Before that, they'll have to have elections, whatever, and whether that verdict will be accepted by the whoever is in power in Bangladesh. So basically, I think the best option for Bangladesh is to have a free and fair election. So, which means that they must include the Awami League, allow them to participate in whatever form, whoever is there, because many of their leaders and workers have fled and they have escaped because they were targeted, they were killed, they were obviously afraid, so they escaped. And because there was a lot of violence during the agitation, and after Hasina was ousted, there was targeted violence against Awami League, the minority community, the Hindus, others, which they tried to brush under the carpet. But that's a reality. That's what happened.
Sir, my final question to you. Beyond what we've spoken about, do you think that this will have an impact on her family members as well? Apart from the obvious emotional impact, could we see a witch hunt take place?
It's bound to be, I think, because they are after everybody in that family. And so there will be a witch hunt. I think it's already begun. Her daughter, who was I think I don't know, she was holding a UN position and based in Delhi. I think UNESCO or something like that. I don't remember exactly. They complained to UNESCO, and the UNESCO and made some allegations. So the UNESCO removed her from this job. So she continues to, she had the job in her own right, but whatever. She was elected actually to this job. Now she was a regional director. But now she was removed because the Yunus government complained to the UN that how can you have her? So they blamed her also for being a party to whatever was happening in Bangladesh, although I don't think she was involved. So that's kind of vendetta has been the hallmark of the Yunus government. They've done it from day one.
All right, Mr. Chakraborty, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and giving us more crucial insight into one of the biggest developments that we've seen in Bangladesh in generations.